I was basically going to start off by doing like we just talk about the trailer, and like our general thoughts based on what we spoke about in the last episode.
Yeah, sure.
And then I've left in some of the slides, looking through the Wonder Weapon, looking through some of the teasers that they put out, and how like the bosses are gonna, how the bosses are gonna be in this new map. Also a little bit of story stuff about this new Ravenov character. And then basically talking a bit more about the Elder Gods, and I went through loads of intel today. I went on back on the PlayStation, looked through loads of intel, the ones I pulled out, the ones that were kind of relevant.
Yeah, sure.
But the Elder God stuff is that's the real cool stuff that's underneath the surface,
Yeah, cool. All right, so the stream started. Welcome everyone. Welcome to the podcast. You're kind of like pre-podcast, so we thought we'd just kick off the stream and get people in before we actually start shit going. So yeah, welcome. We were just discussing exactly how we're going to go through this. Did you guys watch the first podcast? Explorer of My Cities first. Welcome, buddy. I've not seen you around before, or you new? If you're new, then absolutely welcome, buddy. Oh, Blake, how's it going, man? Pleasure to chat to you today in the comments, dude. Really good feedback. Welcome, buddy. I need to get my camera like over there because it's weird for me to like talk to you guys over there, but my camera's too far away. I might have to. Fuck it, I'm doing this. I'm going there. How's that? It's probably a bit better. This is good. All right, guys, let's kick this shit off. So Tel, do you reckon it's worth us watching the trailer first, or how do you want to do it?
Yeah, should we give it one quick refresh, just so everyone can see it? Yeah, it'd be good just to like have one quick once over on it, just watch it through.
Yeah,
we can chat after.
Yeah, sure. So I think what I'll do first is I'll do the intro for the actual YouTube episode, and then we'll get into the we'll play the trailer. I don't like my camera being there. I like it being over there. I'll just have to talk side to side. Right. Hello everyone and welcome to the TCK podcast. This is episode 2, and this week it's all about the Firebase Z hype as the new map is coming out at the end of this week. We thought we'd kind of dedicate this episode to more of a Firebase Z kind of chat. If we feel like it towards the end, we'll drop in some Warzone, but I think it's going to be more zombies based. So as always, we've done 2 episodes. I'm joined by my buddy, I Blast Off. Tel, how's it going, man?
Yeah, great, man. How are you? You good?
Yeah, all good, man. I was going to ask you actually, how's the old lockdown going in the UK? Because I've heard some bad things. So for you guys that don't know, I'm in Madrid. I'm English, yes, from London, but I'm in Madrid now, and Tel is in London. So yeah, how is it over there?
Yeah, London. Well, it feels like it's been lockdown forever since this is like the 4th lockdown that we've been through, and it's just really kind of tiresome and boring now, I guess. Just nothing's open. The highlight of the day is getting a coffee. That's essentially like all we have to cling on to.
Yeah, it's so bad because I hear a lot of people here in Madrid, because in Madrid everything's open, like literally pretty much everything's open. They put in new laws like now where it's at 9 o'clock the bars and things have to close, and I think you have to be home by 10, whereas before it was like midnight. And then you hear people on the phone like in the street complaining. It's like, like I can only go like out drinking till like 9. And I'm like, in London, man, you can't even do anything. Like you can't even go out, let alone like
all restaurants are closed. Like you can't buy any clothes. Like all shops are closed. It actually is just, everything is closed apart from like takeaway stuff and also more like day items like lunches and stuff.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Pretty boring. And there's no like we're not even anywhere near close to coming out. I think they announced at the end of February that we might have reduced rules. So yeah, it's quite it's good time to stay in, I guess.
Yeah, I mean that sounds super strict.
It is, yeah. Luckily Firebase Z is coming out.
Yeah, that's crazy. But anyway, to kick off the podcast, I think it's best that we first check out the Firebase Z trailer that come out last week, I believe it was. Was that right?
Yeah, I think it was. It would have been last Thursday, or maybe Thursday.
All right. So first of all, we're going to check this out, and then we're going to crack on with the topics.
Weaver, I'm still in the field. I have to meet a contact.
I am not proud of everything I have done, but I am proud of what I am doing. Omega must be stopped, no matter the personal cost to people like you and I.
No, my friend. They are the ones who are going to pay.
They have already opened their new worlds.
Ravenov, my team's reached the village.
Requiem, welcome to Vietnam. We have to get out of here now.
On the move.
I'd pick up the pace if I were you, for Max's sake.
Yeah! That's you.
If you're lying to me, if you betrayed her, if any harm comes to her, I will kill you myself.
All right, so there we go. First, the first thing I want to talk about there is, man, that fucking Russian guy with the sling. Like, the textures on him are so bad. Did you see?
Yeah.
Did you see that?
Yeah.
Why?
That's the thing. When I first watched the trailer, like I think I've seen it maybe like 40 times now. But when I first watched it, I was a bit like the first cutscene we got with D Machine was like really, really like beautifully like lit, and all the graphics were amazing. And then on this one, I think it feels like an in-game cutscene, not an actual cutscene. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. But that's the thing. Usually, like the pre-launch stuff is obviously all the beautiful pre-rendered graphical shit, you know.
Yeah, I was the same. I actually did think that it wasn't as, sort of high end as the D Machine cutscene. But yeah, nevertheless, I mean, in terms of like, what do you think? What's your general thoughts?
General thoughts are very good. It does feel very like World at War, Black Ops 1, especially the Vietnam side of things. I don't know if it's graphically or just the setting or whatever, but it does feel like a very old classic zombies kind of feel. Well, obviously it's very early to tell, and that's just off of a very a very low rendered like kind of like cutscene. But
I think, like, I mean, to be honest, if that's your feedback, and I was Treyarch, like the map, because it is set in the Cold War, it is like that's bang on the money, basically what you've just said.
yeah,
So
but like I was actually taking a bit of a research into because I thought this would be a good thing for me to do, because I only saw this trailer today, so I was looking at the comments of people in this actual this is from GameSpot, the trailer I watched. And it was quite interesting to go through some of the comments that people put. So I'll go through a few of them. So the first one was, Wonder Weapon shows characteristics of the energy minefield upgrade, like energy mine rifle, which I thought was quite an interesting point. Yeah. But the other ones are kind of things that would kind of echo what we said in the TTK podcast, episode 1 from last week. People are saying the zombies have more personality than the characters, which I thought was I was like, that's a really, really good one.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, and then the other one that actually put me on to like kind of reaffirmed what I just said was like 3 people were like, is it just me, or like that Russian like characters like render like proper bad, like really, really bad? I was like, yeah, thank God someone wrote that in the comments. I thought my eyes were breaking.
That's so funny, because I think, like, I was saying I watched it 40 times, but on the first watch, I was like, I didn't really know how I felt.
Yeah.
Like, I think it was due to the fact like the operators just feel so like, you know, like exactly like that comment, you know, the zombies have way more personality than the actual characters and the operators. And I think that just kind of, on my first watch, I was like, like it didn't hit my expectations, even though I knew it was going to be like that. But after I've watched it, like, you know, quite a lot of times now, I'm more focused on the map design, the gameplay, and things like this, which I do actually like. I feel like it is a step on from D Machine. I actually feel like it's got, after going through all of the intel, there's a lot more depth, and I'm hoping that, you know, like we said in the last podcast, hopefully that depth's going to come through. And as a community, we're going to kind of go on this journey with them, starting from the beginning. So I'm really excited for it, essentially.
Yeah, cool. No, so am I. It does look good. Like the boss zombies and stuff as well. It looks good. Like there's the one with the fucking minigun on his arm.
Yeah, so basically, like, I was going to kind of go through like what's our first like top line trailer thoughts, and then I kind of was going to talk about maybe breaking it down into, you know, bits of the trailer. And if in our little Google Docs, Google Slides, on slide 15, you'll see like Treyarch, they released a blueprint for the Wonder Weapon, and I suppose that's just be a good starting point to what do you think of the Wonder Weapon, and yeah, like what's your take on it?
So it's the Ray K84, right?
Ray K84, yeah.
Yeah, even just that's worth the ticket price alone.
That is cool, yeah, the Ray K44.
Ray K84, yeah, it's dope. Oh, by the way, chat, I just want to say this before, I should have said this at the beginning, but the whole point, obviously, the way we're streaming this is if you guys have any questions and input on the topics that we're doing, then feel free just to talk in the live chat. And when we get to the segment, like kind of at the end of each topic, then I will obviously just go through your questions and we'll read them out live on the stream and get them answered, and obviously call you guys out and all of that lovely stuff. But yeah, for the Wonder Weapon, it looks sick. So basically, you got the different ammo type converter. It's obviously got different modes that you can go through. Obviously, they quite clearly display that in the footage.
Yeah, because they've got like where you flip the switch and you can go to like, you know, like firing energy mines, essentially like dark ether energy mines, which is what the comment suggested. And then you've also got it as kind of like a tactical rifle type firing, which I've actually think again is quite. It's a fresh take on a Wonder Weapon that's not really happened before. It feels like quite a normal Wonder Weapon, you know, not like something crazy like Sliquifier or It's actually like a normalized Wonder Weapon, which I think makes sense for the Cold War and a kind of like this early doors of trying things out, early development, I guess.
Yeah.
So for me, I think that's quite cool. I'm interested to see how it runs. There's also like for me, it kind of looks like is it based on an AK or is it like the AN, you know, the AN 94?
Well, just for the name alone, you'd probably think the AK.
You'd think it's an AK, yeah. I think it is based on the AK plus Ray K84. But yeah, it does feel a bit like the AN as well. But yeah, I'm excited, and obviously the main thing everyone's talking about is like, is it going to be the same run of like having an electricity, different ammo types, which are like ice, fire, blah blah. And I do think that's a bit rinsed and repeat now already. I'd rather see something different.
Yeah. But the thing is, as I'm kind of looking at it, it kind of looks like something. Obviously, it's going to be buildable parts, right? To build this, obviously, it shows in the trailer of getting it out of the box.
Yeah,
but it says things like here, like don't forget to charge and things like that. Like you need power cells and things. So yeah, because on paper it does look like something, as you say, it's basically just like an AK that fires this different like ammo type. It would have been cool if it was something like, it's like something you can construct to like any gun in the game. Like imagine you bring it into the game like the M16. You can make it into the M1684 or something like that, you know, and it's like, you just convert its different ammo type and you can bring your favorite gun and then it does all this different stuff. That would have been cool.
I'm quite surprised that they haven't done that, because they did speak in early stages of like, now with the rarity system, now you can take any gun into the gunfire and you can make it into a Wonder Weapon, you know, by upgrading it, essentially. That's what they were talking about. Like, not for Firebase C, but before D Machine come out. And they're just talking about, you know, you can go to the armor station and upgrade it. So it feels like as powerful as a Wonder Weapon. You can take it to high rounds. But what you just said is basically like that, but like much better.
Yeah.
You have this like Wonder Weapon add-on kit that you can build and attach onto any weapon that you want, so your loadout is even more powerful, which I think would be really, really cool.
Yeah, I do too. I do too. Yeah, just like from the footage, it does look like it gives you kind of enough to go like, okay, yeah, this looks cool. But as always, doesn't really give you too much information to be like, I know exactly what it does. But from how many parts does it look like? It looks like 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1 being the barrel assembly, 5 being in the element cover. No, 2 being the element cover, 1 being the power cell, and then the other 1 being the actual like clip or something, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you've got three parts. You've got the ammo, like you say, power cells, and there's the element converter, which obviously that's kind of pointing towards you can put different ammo. It actually looks exactly like the same thing you use in the die. Actually, like the actual element charges you swap out.
Yeah.
And then the barrel assembly. But yeah, I don't know. I'm hyped for it. I'm hoping it's going to be quite cool. If we move on to slide 16, just did a little breakdown of the new mini bosses or special bosses that we've seen in the trailer, and just some of the like teaser content that Treyarch have posted on their channels. They keep posting like multiple stuff, like some on Discord, some on Twitter, some on Instagram. So it's kind of like you have to like keep up with what's been coming out. But yeah, so I suppose like you mentioned, this guy on the left, is actually a Russian mangler, and he was last seen in Gorod Krovi, like in Black Ops 3, which is kind of mad to think that they've kind of brought back a mech, and this is obviously nothing has been explained in the storyline whatsoever, apart from the fact that if we went back to the previous storyline and you had the Aether storyline versus the Dark Aether storyline. In the Aether storyline, at the very end of Tag the Totem, if anyone's completed it, I'm going to assume that you might have, because obviously there's so much to discuss. We'll have to basically the Russian manglers, although everything was thrown into the Dark Aether at the end, I assume because they're mechanical, they've survived. Do you know what I mean? Like nothing can survive in there. Any humans, they kind of get turned into, they become these monsters essentially, or zombies or whatever. But mechs, they can't. So I suppose that's the reason for them kind of being around.
Yeah.
Or they've time traveled and figured out how to build these things. But yeah, I think for me that was the biggest shock of the trailer, is seeing them mechs from Gorod Krovi, because it was like what so random. But I mean, I think they're quite cool. I actually like them as a boss design. So
yeah, I guess the kind of trouble that they always face is just like, it's not as easy if they bring back kind of like assets or enemies from past titles. Like they have to explain everything and they have to make a connection, because that's the vibe, right? Of obviously zombies is you need to connect it through a narrative. Right, so it's kind of like, as you say, it's like you just drop this fucking bomb from like Gorod Krovi, and it's like what the fuck? Like, how is that in there? Like, what's the But it also kind of like opens the door for like new exciting things, because like, well, maybe there's a reason for that being there. Maybe that connects to in the story, and we're gonna learn how this all connects or whatever. Because obviously, like at the moment, like everything's completely open. There is no story. Obviously, we've got new characters, or you can't really call them characters, but like everything's super new, and we don't really know what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, it's literally that. It's like my whole thing with it was like, wow, they've brought the mangler back from Gorod Krovi, and it's like, so why? And then I was like exactly how I just explained. It's because in the Dark Aether, I can only imagine the only things that could survive in there are the mechs. From that, because that whole Aether storyline got thrown into the Dark Aether, so like nothing exists anymore. But then I think mechs probably could exist. But yeah, we'll see how they'll explain it, and what actually it comes out. Why is it there? I'm sure we'll find out in this new map.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah,
because they don't really do just like like random. They don't do random things. Everything's calculated. And also, I went back and watched like their really old like Treyarch talking about like when Cold War was about to be released, and Craig Houston, the writer, he basically said that everything in the whole Aether storyline, that last 15 years of zombie storyline, it's all completely canon to this storyline. It's like that whole thing and everything that happened is the reason why this Dark Aether storyline is happening. So there are still going to be links, and I think this is one of the things we're probably going to find out with this machine. Like this is the first real like link to the past, apart from Samantha Max's. that we know.
Yeah, I mean that's why it could be exciting. The thing is that they've with D Machina, they've kind of opened it up to being like it's a bit undramatic in terms of narrative and storyline. It's been it's let a lot of people down because it's not as epic as it has been before, you know, with all of our favorite characters. So in terms of like connecting the narratives, there's not been really a lot there for people to kind of latch onto, in my opinion. So I guess now it's kind of like well, how are they going to do this? Like, how are they going to connect all of these things? Are they going to actually, these characters in the game, obviously apart from like Samantha and you know iconic characters like that, are they going to bring our playable characters into the fold and make characters out of them? They're going to build them up, or are they just always going to be like NPCs, so to speak?
Yeah, totally. I do think like the good thing about this map is the Russian guy, he's going to be like an antagonist, right? So D Machine didn't have that already. So now already we have someone in the map who's going to be telling us what to do. And he's the one who's going to either like betray Samantha or going to help us free her. Do you know what I mean? So there's already some sort of depth straight off the bat. Whereas in D Machine, you kind of just drop in without even knowing that you need to destroy Project End Station. There's no like real, it was all about intel finding. And unless you actually go through all of the intel, which is the main point of this whole Cold War system now, like they're only really telling storyline through intel, and only because I've just gone back through it all, I'm realizing, oh, actually there's like, you know, loads of stuff, but you have to spend a lot of time going through it all, whereas before you just got it in a cutscene and the characters gave away more. So it's a bit more like if you dig deeper on D Machine, you can start to find stuff out. And that's, you know, I've started to pull some quotes out and we can kind of go through it. But yeah, I do think just off the bat that this map, the new one, you know, already has an antagonist who's going to like tell you what to do or start to build story in that way. Which yeah, should be interesting.
My only thing on that is like, do you remember last week in the last episode we spoke about like the mentality behind what they're trying to do with obviously Black Ops Cold War Zombies is like trying to make it more appealing for new people to get involved with zombies, right? And we were saying it's like, oh, maybe the story, like, because the problem may have been that the previous storyline, the narrative might have been a bit too complex, a bit too like all over the place for people to really go like, you know, do I really know what's going on? I don't really know what's going on. Like for the average Joe to be like, oh, okay, yeah, I get the story, you know? It's not like sitting down and watching a movie. Like this was like sitting down and watching a movie where like, you know, the third act was in the first act and the second act was like not even there, and there was a seventh act, and like, you know, it didn't make sense. So for them, the thing for you to like when you said like, which is true, which is like you kind of have to still dig deeper, even with this new kind of storyline mechanic that they're going for. Is that even like, is that the best thing to do? Because surely it's like, well, if you have to really dig that deep to kind of connect to the old game, okay, maybe you're trying to connect to a previous title, but should you really have to dig that deep? Shouldn't it be like you said, the cutscenes kind of gave away or led you into what could possibly be happening in this, you know, in the upcoming map?
Like what you basically exactly what you're saying is I was watching like in preparing for this podcast, I was watching quite a lot of old Treyarch stuff. Especially with Jason Blundell, who's left now, but you know he was the creative director of all the previous titles, pretty much.
He was the fucking daddy, man, that guy.
Yeah, BO4 and BO3 and a lot of BO2, I think Origins and Mob of the Dead and stuff. And he, when speaking to like various YouTubers and stuff, he'd always give away like little bits of information, and he did mention that this kind of balance of when they started to introduce more cutscenes, they realized that the community started to not find certain Easter eggs that were a lot harder because they just got blindsided by like cutscenes. So I found it quite interesting because essentially what they're saying now is that they're actually putting loads of breadcrumbs throughout this intel, but it's only when you look for it you're going to find it. Whereas before people would just watch the cutscene and be like, okay, I kind of know what's going on, and they don't pay attention to the ciphers or, you know, all the other stuff that kind of build it, unless you're like die hard. And I think maybe they've obviously been trying to find the balance across all of these games, and they've reverted back to this older system. Well, not older system, but it's kind of a bit like World at War, isn't it? And I think it's probably cryptic of the Cold War era. That's probably why, you know, they've kind of stuck it to this bare bones level. But yeah, for the average Joe, they're still going to have to go into their intel and read all of the stuff. Well, first they have to collect it, then they have to read it.
Yeah.
But like in the machine, all you kind of know is that Project End Station, the Germans, like, you know, they started this thing, then they kind of got wiped out. Then this Omega group comes along and they try to like sort of redo the work that the Germans were doing. In doing that, they start to make advances in the technology, and they find that like cyclotron, don't they? And then, you know, you kind of the whole storyline is basically that just destroying that station so that they can stop the advances in their technology, stop the outbreaks. But in the new map, they've gone ahead. So it's kind of, yeah, I see where they're going with it. But the best thing about the machine is when you get to round 40 and there's the giant walking outside the map. Like, that's like, oh shit, what's this? That's like the really cool part. And the dark ether is obviously the really, really cool part. But that they don't explain anything in cutscenes. They only explain it in intel.
Yeah.
But I'll go through that later. But yeah, just on the other topic, what did you think about this new dude, which is being titled Mimic, like the Mimic boss?
The Mimic boss. Oh fuck, man! Just before we talk about the Mimic, I watched this fucking show on Netflix. It's called Haunted. You know I love all my ghosty shit.
Yeah.
And there was this one episode, and it's like this girl, like in I think it was like a group of like people, like youngsters, like teenagers and shit, where they was renting this place, and they was haunted by something called the Mimic. And basically, what it was like it was a ghost or something, like a spirit, and it could mimic all of their voices and their appearance. And that was apparently real. Like, these are all true stories. Apparently, like, you know, just random people they get on the show and like they just fucking sit and talk in the group. I was like, man, it was like from the basement, like typical, like from the basement, and was calling their names. And one of them like actually like saw it, and it was appeared as another one of their friends. And I was like, fuck, man, that's so scary.
That's like my worst nightmare, I think, for a guy.
Honestly, it was so crazy. But the way they do this show is so good. It is really, really good. Like they spent a lot of money on it, because it's like the format is like they get just the real people, they get them on the and then basically they're on a set in a room, like, you know, it's dressed like a living room or whatever, and then they film them. They all just sit around, and most of the time it's like they've never heard, and it could be their family or their friends or whatever. They've never heard them tell this out loud before, you know. And it's like they tell this story of like what's happened to them, or it's like if the whole family's been haunted, it's the first time that they've kind of like talked about it, you know.
Yeah.
And then it's like, yeah, and then it's but then they do these like really like, you know, well shot. There's a lot of production budget on it, like, you know, actually like portray it, you know. And it's fucking scary as hell, man. Like, really scary. It does. That's why I said to you. Do you remember? I was like, man, you should do this show from your ghost story that you told me. Maybe we'll go through this. If people are interested to hear about I Blast Off or Tell's ghost story, then let us know in the chat. We'll go through it one day.
I did actually come into contact with I'll say a presence, and we'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
But if you want to know,
little teaser. Yeah, man, it's a good story.
Yeah, I'm still scared of it.
Yeah, I bet, man. Jesus.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Anyway,
yeah,
so this Mimic. The first thing I kind of thought about this was like, do you remember I sent to you in the text? I was like, when I text you when you first sent this to me, and I was like, what, prop hunt zombie? It can turn into like random stuff. But then I watched the guy. Oh, who was it? Prestige's Key later that day, and I was like, and he was like, oh, maybe this is like a precursor. They're trying to explain what prop hunt is, and I was like, no way. I was like, really? I was like, is that actually going to be real? Like, it is actually prop hunt zombie.
I heard, yeah, that off the back of that, they were going to do prop hunt zombies. Like, it was actually going to be a thing. It might be a game mode. You might have called it.
I know, but if it is actually like they're trying to explain what prop hunt is through zombies, it's like, I know. I don't think prop hunt needs a backstory. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of stupid enough as it is, but.
Just try out to give prop hunt a backstory there.
Yeah, that'd be so fun.
Yeah, because I sent you that image on the right, which I don't know if you've got it up, but that is the sort of propaganda, or not propaganda, but yeah, that sort of propaganda type image poster where we had like the Mimic boss coming out of a canister, and I just thought it was supposed to be, because I think the Russian it translates to like I can't remember now off the top of my head, but it's like they'll get you wherever you are or something like that. And we were just like. It's just kind of, I thought it was just more of a part. I didn't know that would be an actual effect. Like, it's a refreshing thing to do. But we've never would have faced a boss like this. So essentially on this autopsy report, they basically say that this monster is it's a guy who spent a lot of time in the dark ether. It's one of the informants who was like searching for where is it? So I can't really see that, but he basically was in the dark ether trying to find materials and stuff and more research information to bring back. And after spending too much time there, you kind of get overwhelmed by the darkness, and then you turn into like various creatures. So this is one of the creatures that he's been turned into, and his abilities are, like he can transform into various objects. And it says a crate, it says an equipment storage container, a chair, a rifle, and also like Ethereum containment canisters. And I think obviously a rifle was quite interesting because it does say a little bit in the story how they trapped this monster in its cell, and then it turned into a rifle. And essentially, like when the guard went to go check it, he was like, "Oh, there's nothing in here," and then he came out the rifle and he kills him and escapes.
Yeah.
But that kind of sets it up for like, okay, so if this boss is going to basically be waiting for you in random places, which is going to be quite like scary.
That's going to scare the shit out of me. I'm not gonna lie. That's going to scare the shit out of me.
You could get a rifle and it could turn into the monster. Do you know what I mean?
I know, but like, please, just don't make it just random jump scares because that's so cheap.
Yeah,
that's so cheap. If they did that.
I mean, and it also says that these tentacles kind of act a bit like
independently of themselves, no?
Independently, yeah.
What does that mean? What does that mean?
Yeah.
Does that mean like what they fall off and they can do other shit, or does that mean just like what does that mean?
I don't know, but yeah, so it seems like you're going to be dealing with like lots of things attacking you in various ways to make you think, I guess.
Yeah.
I imagine it like Blightfather from BO4, like its tongue sort of grabbed you and pulled you in.
Yeah.
I imagine it like that. But also in the trailer, it looks really fast. Like it looks quick.
Does it?
Yeah, like
I didn't notice speed.
The way he walks.
Okay.
Like, he's fast, compared to like a Megaton who's quite slow and bulky. This one looks quite fast. Plus, you're going to have the manglers as well, who can obviously shoot from their claw. So it's going to be quite, maybe like you have to mix up the long range game.
Maybe, yeah, because it feels very much like a Margwa kind of thing.
Yeah, and that's probably why they give you sort of like attack rifle, some keep them at range, because seems like a lot of their things are going to be ranged attacks, like the mangler, and then also this sort of like tentacle attack.
Yeah.
But, my guess would be, just from looking at it, similar to the Margwa, the weakness is probably going to be his mouth, when it opens its mouth, because it's usually the shiny spot.
Yeah, it's usually like the yellow like bits that are kind of bulging out of him,
Yeah, so I'd imagine like going into Firebase 2, we kind of shoot for the mouth. That would be my tip. But yeah, all in all, again, going back to like the actual fact that this is something new, a new mechanic. We've never had something disguise itself in zombies as random items. This is going to be kind of interesting. It could be like the most hated thing of all time, or it could be really cool. So I just like the fact that it's trying new stuff. I'm always pro trying new stuff, even if it doesn't work out. At least you can learn from it, and then the community can give their feedback. And obviously, most of them give really bad feedback. Like I did see some of the comments on like Instagram and stuff, and they'll post this poster and it'll be about this mini boss, and then all the comments will be skill-based matchmaking.
Yeah, you know it, man.
Yeah, so funny. But yeah, moving on to the next one. I just want to keep this one quite short because obviously this is a new character, and what his role is going to be, like I said, kind of touched on it before, but he's going to be an antagonist who's going to help us get through to try to rescue Sam. But like even in this report, he was working for Omega, and it's got it basically says that he's like super loyal, blah blah blah. And then at the bottom it says, as a true believer, we know he would never betray his country, and it's got loads of blood on it. So I'm guessing they like think that he's dead, but he's kind of gone behind enemy lines, and now he's trying to like screw Omega over. That's my kind of like top line thoughts on this.
So do you think they're actually kind of like investing in building these characters up later then? And like actually just trying
because they're giving up, they're doing a lot of like, look at how much intel I've just put together in this deck, and they've only released that over the last week or so, and there's all that intel which I will go through later as well. They're putting out quite a lot of stuff, so it will just be, I don't know if there's going to have a cutscene. That's the main thing, like will it have a cutscene or not?
Will there be a high res cutscene? Will it be a pre-rendered cutscene? I mean, even his face in the cutscene doesn't look like that face. It doesn't look like that face at all. That's not even fully rendered. But I mean, that's a lot better than what you get in the actual cutscene.
Yeah.
All right. What do you think happened to his arm?
What do I think happened to his arm?
I think he was caught in a freak fishing accident.
It's more than plausible, yeah. Totally. He's so basically he might have been betrayed by Omega. Then he's faked his own death, and then he went fishing.
I could see it.
Yeah.
Hold on a minute. I published in the comments. It said Warzone cake ? What does that mean? What does Warzone cake ? mean? Autocorrect. Warzone cake? It could be. He could have been making a Warzone cake. Yeah, and then
that's why he's injured his arm. Yeah.
It spontaneously combusted and damaged his ligaments.
We'll see how he pans out once we get into the map.
Yeah, maybe that's why he hasn't got enough pixels anymore.
On his cake skills.
Yeah, he's gonna bake his way out of the situation.
But yeah, so on to the next one, which is obviously a bit more juicier. In the trailer, it's probably the best bit. Is obviously at the end when you see this is a render that someone made. I think it's got his little his Twitter thing on there. Oh, but this is a render of the Elder God.
That is good.
And, yeah, it's pretty cool, isn't it? And basically, the Elder God is kind of like, well, I will explain it anyway. But in terms of the trailer, that's probably the best bit where you see this kind of massive Elder God do this huge dark ether laser beam from its head.
Yeah, because this is an Easter egg in Die Maschine, right? Outside the map. Yeah,
so in Die Maschine, once you get to round 40 plus and you enter the dark ether, you'll hear these noises. And then you look outside the map and you'll see like the whole screen is shaking, and then you see this big dude who kind of just walks through trees and stuff. And actually in this image you can kind of see, but like he's actually made up of loads of like zombies and like basically loads of dead people. That's kind of he's just absorbed over time, you know. So it's kind of this whole thing is like, you know, what is an Elder God?
Maybe it's a zombie cake.
Maybe it's giant zombie cake, yeah. I mean, that's probably where he's got his, he broke his arm, that dude.
Probably.
Fighting a zombie cake in the dark ether, you don't want to do that.
No. I think it's just it's like a flan, but made of like other zombies. Just combined.
We don't like flan.
No. Evil flan. 20-foot flan that can shoot lasers out of its face.
That's powerful stuff.
Yeah, no one needs that. No one needs that.
So yeah, I picked out a bit of intel on slide 19. Essentially, like in the intel, they're either being called or referenced to the Elder Gods or Overlords, and these two names or titles were also from the Ether storyline, like the original one. Do you remember on Revelations, the big sort of squid thing floating around in the sky, massive like Apophicon?
Yeah.
That was also referenced as an Elder God, just for a little bit of. But yeah, if you check this out on slide 19, there's like an intel which I pulled out. I think it's one of the ones you get through Dark Ether, and it says like day 1646. Saw something new today, something big, tall as a building, walking through the fog. Difficult to see details. Kept my distance as it passed. I heard talk from the others that the giants roam this land, but dismissed it as madness. Heard one call them Elder Gods. Thought I catalogued all the creatures here and their pecking order. I was wrong. So that's obviously a little bit of insight, you know, before you'd even have seen an Elder God. And the thing I took from this, which I found was pretty interesting, was the fact that he catalogued all the creatures and their pecking order. And that was what I started to dig on. And you're going to go down the rabbit hole with me on this, just going through these slides.
No, it's really good. This is what I personally love.
Yeah, it's like I just started to go down the rabbit hole of it and was like, okay, so what that sort of pecking order, and essentially, you know, I pulled out these titles of like there's various factions, there's various hierarchy, all in the dark ether, and so it's like an Elder God or Overlord is essentially one that has been influenced the most by the exo element 1 or Etherium. Those that can survive the longest within the dark ether hold the highest rank, and those below fall into place. We know this from the Megaton and also the Megaton Overlord, See, like, like you have the normal Megaton, and then when you go into Dark Ether, there's the Overlord version. And the Overlord version actually has various quotes to say, like, about rank and how, like, we will all rule this world in, like, a hive mind kind of mentality. So there's kind of interesting quotes that I just remembered. And then also on D Machine, like, I noticed that there's this character he's referenced as the Stranger, and he has loads of interesting intel that state, like, a lot of the different various monsters are fighting amongst themselves. And I pulled out some of those as well. So here's, like, some of the ones on the screen on slide 21. And basically, this guy, the Stranger, and he goes on, he's in there for this one. It's on day 3,289. So he's in there for a really, really, really long time. And all of this stuff has started to build up, like, loads of conspiracy theories. But this one's quite cool. So it says day 3,289. The longer I am here, the fewer creatures pursue me. Still see them take down newcomers, but me they tend to ignore. Unfortunately, more powerful creatures seem to have taken notice. Not sure why. Do they finally see me as a threat? I try to avoid them. Anyone would. There are things here worse than any nightmare. And then another one, which is slightly earlier, is day 937. Gathered lots of electronics. No success constructing transmitter. Some gear seems very old. Other components unlike any I have ever seen. Wish I could find an instruction manual. Or also finding shimmering weak spots where this world seems to overlap with home. Attempted to pass through, but could not. Still, caught a glimpse of what looked like Southeast Asia. So close, yet out of reach. Must keep trying.
There
so
you
I put
go.
that little one in
the
there.
Portals.
Yeah, exactly. And the portals, and how, like, these also shimmering weak spots. I feel like this might be something we need to look out for.
100%. I was thinking, obviously, we might have to construct something. This is part of the like the transmitter, as it said, to maybe just communicate with the other side and open up the wormhole kind of thing, right?
Because this guy, like the Stranger, he's left, like, in terms of documents, I think there's 10 different documents stating that he's basically, like, his journal of being in the Dark Ether, and he seems like he's a positive character that's kind of like giving, basically he says, like, he's been given hope that we're receiving his messages and stuff.
Yeah.
And I do actually feel like, the theory that I'll get to, but I think that he's actually been so long in the Dark Ether that he's actually become one of those elder gods. And I think that there's factions, between them. So, like, I think the longer you stay in the Dark Ether, eventually you will consume everything around you and you start to become an elder god. But I think there's also good and bad ones. Do you know what I mean? I don't think there's, like, just bad ones. So possibly, like, the one we see in the trailer where he's doing the laser beam is possibly a bad one. But actually in D Machine, there's 2 Easter eggs which involve the giant. And one of them is, when you go in the Dark Ether, you shoot the little buttons and that giant hand comes out.
Yeah.
But the giant hand snatches zombies. And then you are rewarded with a legendary item. Like, an evil thing wouldn't reward you with anything, So
yeah.
It's like my complete theory in the sky is that the Stranger is eventually, he becomes an elder god and he's trying to help you. That's kind of like my top line thought on it. But the other thing was on slide 22 is, so that idea of the player, you feed zombies and it gives you a legendary reward. There's also another one where if you spend 1 minute and 15 seconds in the Dark Ether on a certain round, you also get rewarded. You can hear the giant above you because you have to be in the machine room at the bottom, and you can hear footsteps above you. And when you go upstairs, it's disappeared, but you're rewarded with a max ammo. So there's also, like, this, like, basically the giants rewarded you on two like Easter eggs. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So obviously he's kind of setting up the story that he's a character that's for good.
He's a character or he's good, yeah. So whether the Stranger is him or it's like, or maybe he's found a way to communicate through the barriers, and he's watching us, because they do say in the intel that he can go into the world as a reflection, as a ghost for like 15 seconds, but no one can see him. So I think things like this are going to be really interesting, and it's about I think it might be about, like, as the storyline goes on, about connecting with these lost souls that are in the Dark Ether, which could be really cool. So one of that. Go on, I'm going to let you answer that.
No, I just wanted to kind of go back, because one thing that kind of, like, this is quite exciting. when you were saying on the last page, on page 21, like the top quote, which is about like the longer I'm here, the fewer creatures pursue me. Like, wouldn't it be sick if it's like the more time you actually spent inside the Dark Ether actually gives you kind of like the perma perks. Do you know what I mean? From back in the day, when you can get perma jug and all of that stuff from doing these secret things. Like, imagine it's like the more time you spent in the Dark Ether, the harder the Dark Ether gets, but it actually gives you these kind of like perma benefits that actually carry over from all of your games. You don't have to. You know what I mean? That would be sick. Like saying, it's like you still see them take down newcomers and stuff, but they tend to ignore me. It's like maybe it's like normal zombies ignore you, but then like something else spawns in. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of like where you get.
You know what?
Benefits.
Just reminded me. That would be like just so good, but also like, it reminded me because of this sort of ranking system that obviously it's not a known ranking system, but there's this ranks of like Elder Gods being at the top. Then, as far as we're aware, you've got like, say, Megaton Overlords, then you've got Megatons, and then you've got the Plague Hounds, and then you've got Zombies, and then you've got Humans. That's kind of like the ranking system within the Dark Ether. And it's like very like, if you're not an Elder God can destroy anything and like take over anything. And you kind of have to abide by them just because you're in the Dark Ether, otherwise you'll die. But I think it's really interesting, like you say, like the longer time you've been in there, you become more powerful, so that the other ones start to like, like zombies just avoid you and stuff like that. I mean, that's kind of what they're doing, but I don't think they're doing it as actual benefits for the player. They're doing it as benefits for the storyline.
But wouldn't it be good? Wouldn't it be like really good if it's like, obviously there's a challenge element there, like, because I like the challenge element of like exfil, for example. It's a risk versus reward thing. Okay, if I survive this really hectic round of whatever, obviously now you can just use chopper gunners and shit, and it's not too bad. But the kind of the same premise of like, okay, if I accept this challenge, I am rewarded with something great. So that'd be sick if it's like, okay, instead of Dark Ether, it's just like you could just be running around just doing your shit. But it's like, it's actually a challenge of like, okay, every time you enter the Dark Ether, it gets more complicated to be in there. But when you're in there, you're kind of like leveling up. You're getting this kind of like Dark Ether experience that you can kind of see in your stats or whatever. And it kind of builds you up to like this level where it's like, okay, yeah, like you say, you have this kind of like Dark Ether status, like you say, a fucking pecking order in the Dark Ether. And it's like, okay, now you're an actual like existential being inside fucking zombies, Yeah. That'd be dope. That'd be so good. That'd be so cool.
Even just like you say, like the challenge element of like, Jug becomes like, Dark Ether Jug, and its effects are different. And to be honest, this Stranger character, he does talk about the perk machines and things like this. He talks about a lot of the stuff in the Dark Ether. I think it's just really, really cool. But this pecking order reminds me of, do you remember like Bleach? And you have like...
Or the anime.
The anime.
Yeah.
But I have the numbers, like the numbers of the people like... they number 10, 9, 8, blah blah blah.
Yeah, and obviously like number 1 was the top dude,
Yeah, top dog. Yeah, that's kind of like what it feels like, or it's just kind of. I think it's really cool.
Yeah.
And obviously there's this kind of playing out that if this guy is a good guy, then it's kind of playing out that there might be a split in the kind of the order, which is kind of taking it back to like more of a Great War kind of thing, which they missed out because of BO4.
Yeah,
so I feel like
that would be dope.
It's got super potential. But again, all of this stuff is all hidden in the intel, so you have to kind of find it yourself. But last thing, just
one thing before we just want to crack on, because we've got some people in the chat, we've got some people on the stream. If you just joined, then just say hey in the chat, people. Don't be scared. This is what this podcast is all about. It's all about us talking to you guys, having a conversation. And so if you've got any questions on the topics that we're talking about, then just drop them in the chat. And we'll answer them live on stream. And obviously this is going on YouTube and iTunes and whatever. So get involved. This is honestly what this podcast is all about. It's all about us just, outside of like YouTube and whatever, we have obviously a lot more thoughts and feelings about things. And this is kind of like our platform to talk about everything in the world of Warzone and zombies. This episode obviously is more focused around zombies, as is Firebase Z coming out the end of this week coming. So don't be scared, don't be shy. Just drop a comment or a line in the chat, and obviously we'll pick that up and read it out live. So go on, man. On to your next point. So
the last thing I was thinking that's kind of led up to this moment is at the end of Tag the Totem. So we're still on slide 22. This is why we got an image of Victus, the old Victus crew.
Yep.
So at the end of Texatoten, everything goes into the dark ether, and it's all banished, right? Everything's banished to the dark ether, so including these crew members, these characters, and the only ones left are these characters and Samantha Maxis, a young Samantha Maxis, and the young Eddie. Those two walk off into the darkness, and then all we know is that Samantha Maxis comes out. She's an adult, and it's like a different storyline in the dark ether. But these characters are left alone in the dark ether, and in the intel, like it says, the longest people that have been in there, they will transform over time. Like there's another piece of intel, which is there's a section that's called Lost Souls, and there's loads of documents on like people that have been lost in the dark ether. And this is one from this woman called Barbara. I haven't got the memo. I'll try.
Oh, Barbara, she's popping up again with her theories and all the comments and stuff.
So I'll send it and you can put it on screen. But like essentially, Barbara, she says that people won't believe me, but I'm essentially like I'm turning. My nails have grown really long and my teeth have grown really long. And I'm turning into like an alligator. That's literally what she says in this thing.
And where's this from? Where's this from?
It's a piece of intel that you find in D Machine.
It's in D Machine.
Or Onslaught, I'm not sure.
Yeah, send it to me on the old chat there.
Yeah, I'll send it to you. And then essentially like that's just this whole thing about the longer the time you spend in there, the longest one become like these elder gods. That's like the extreme version that we've seen so far. But it just thinking of like the Victus crew are in there, the dark ether, like they're literally been banished there. So the chances of them turning into like these elder gods is quite.
Oh man, if that happens, that would be sick. But the thing is like, I'm not being funny, but all it takes is like, like me and you are just sitting here talking, right?
Yeah.
So surely they must be fucking doing this, like the writers, like surely, like.
I feel
it's like I said about like, I think I said it last week about the cheaters in Warzone. It's just like, just get a bunch of fucking kids that play the game a lot and like really interested in it and just like sit down and listen to them.
Yeah.
Because like the shit you're talking about now is like really cool. Like really, 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 really cool. Like imagine that happened, like the Victus crew actually turn into like elder gods inside like for Black Ops Cold War Zombies, and it's like we start to piece this together and they actually like, I don't know, maybe they're trying to escape the dark ether and you have to rescue them and turn them back to their human form and connect the worlds. Like even that would be like if he was like that's the story of like Cold War Zombies, I'd be like, that's dope. I was like, yes, I would pay for every map, like 100%. I'd be like, yep, fine, done. The credit card's there, just take it, done.
Again, this is what's so great about it. It's all like speculation, but I mean, it kind of it's there. It makes sense. Like it does make sense. And even I looked back into Victus because I was like, is this plausible? Could it happen? Totally plausible. Like it is totally plausible in terms of the storyline, but also the fact that they had made these buried maps. They've made Transit and Die Rise apparently, but they never got to release them in BO3. What about if they did it, but they were all just Dark Ether versions, like straight up Dark Ether versions? Do you know what I mean? Already that's epic.
Game over, done.
Boom.
So and good.
But just the fact that the Victus crew. What I also liked about it was that you had previously in the Ether storyline Victus, Ultimus, and Primus. And Primus meant first, Ultimus meant last, and Victus meant defeated. Like that's what it actually meant. And if you think how much shit they've gone through, like to be defeated and then even turn into these like wandering elder gods, it's epic. And if anyone's going to help you, it would be those guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah, epic. Yeah, it'd be so good. You're
so
totally right.
I wanted to leave that, like let that stew, and I just wanted to anyone who's watching this to kind of get hyped because there's so much cool stuff that Treyarch can do with this. We just kind of hype people up and see how it goes. And if anyone's got any crazy theories or suggestions, then just throw them in, commenting.
Yeah, exactly. I said, don't be shy, guys. Just get involved down in the comments. I say we're going to open up a section, and if you've got any questions or anything, we're going to answer them. So yeah, again, don't be shy. Okay, have you got another topic? Yeah, we have.
I've got two things left, and they're quite short. One of them's kind of like a cool thing that I found, and this thing is just stepping back. So I just wanted to talk about the D Machine. Like I say, I actually write it here. Like some things people just take for granted. Like they literally just take things for granted. But some things, they just haven't been explained. And I was like, what the hell was these jellyfishes? Do you know what I mean? They just...
Yeah.
I just
You're
think
so right. You're so
Nothing-
right, man.
right.
It's one of those things. Kind of like you see it first time, you're like, wow, this must be something. Like maybe you can fucking ride. Obviously not, but like in my head, it's like, wow, maybe you can ride them, or whatever. And then after you played it like 7,000 times, it's like, yeah, they just blend into the background because you at this moment in time, it's like you've not been able to interact with them, so that you kind of like falls into the background, right?
Exactly, and I was just like what? Why would Treyarch specifically put giant jellyfish that are like, and the whole map is also there's little bubbles when you're in the dark ether, and things are overgrown as if you're underwater. So it's very much underwater vibes, and it's only really when you look closely to these things, whilst you're not, being chased and trying to survive, like it's. I only looked at it and I was like, it actually kind of like got these real underwater vibes. Anyway, from going through this intel, like I did this whole intel search, like read through pretty much everything that I had found. There is this one, again, I think she was a lost soul, someone who's been lost inside the dark ether, called Alice. You can put it on screen as well. I'll just read it out. She said, "I hope someone out there can hear this. I'm not quite certain this device even works." I think I've even got her voice. "You see, I'm a historian. I was touring ancient sites in Peru when it all went dark. Suddenly, I'm in this jigsaw landscape, this hodgepodge of creatures and artifacts, like a collision of cultures and eras. I've seen medieval structures alongside 21st century buildings. I've seen ancient storybook creatures and mechanical monsters," note that from the old mangler, "and mechanical monsters straight from a science fiction novel. And the thought that I cannot seem to shake now is that the universe has a dumping ground of things that go bump in the night. Others I've encountered assume this is hell. But it's worse. It's the dustbin of history. It's the rubbish dump of all time. When the universe is through with you, this is your final stop." So it doesn't really explain the jellyfish, but it does explain that, like, essentially the Dark Ether is a collection of everything, like that's just been banished there. So I'm guessing that's my only link to why these jellyfish exist.
But she doesn't really say it's the Dark Ether, though. She just says it's like
no, but saying others I've encountered assume this is hell, but she is in the Dark Ether.
Yeah, I was touring ancient sites in Peru when it all went dark. Suddenly, I'm in this jigsaw landscape. Yeah, so it is kind of like a teleportation kind of vibe. Yeah. But you don't know because it hasn't linked it specifically.
I'm guessing this is like she's a survivor from when the Ether storyline was banished. Do you know what I mean? I think she's like a random survivor, and that's why you've got these mechanical monsters, which are the manglers. Why would they be in there? That's the only link we've had to them ever. And we'll know more on that as the map comes out. But also, having modern buildings mixed with ancient buildings. So it's kind of like, I don't know, it's just weird. But yeah, for me, it doesn't really explain the jellyfish.
But no, nothing has really explained the jellyfish. To be honest, I was quite upset about that. I really wanted to tackle these jellyfish. Interact with them in some way.
I mean,
do you like me and starfish? Do you remember that time? Where was we when I was not meant to pick up the starfish, but I actually did pick up the starfish.
It said do not pick up the starfish. That's exactly what it said.
But where was we?
And we were in California.
Yeah, at the zoo.
Yes, at the zoo, yeah, and you literally, it said do not pick up the starfish, and then I looked away for 2 seconds, and I looked back, and you were like covered in 5.
It is a true story, unfortunately. I got a bit excited by the starfish. Nothing weird, they just caught my attention. I thought that'd be cool to pick them up and put them on me. Yeah. It's the same feeling towards a jellyfish. When I first saw them, I was like, "Fuck, man! I want to do something to these jellyfish." I was a bit pissed off. I couldn't. To be perfectly honest.
I'm surprised that there is nothing you can do with them. Like,
yeah. One other question, but being that we're on fauna and zombies at the moment, what the fuck do you do with the ghost monkeys?
Again, hasn't been solved.
There must be something.
It doesn't make sense.
Maybe they're connected. The jellyfish and the monkeys. Maybe the monkeys ride the jellyfish in the dark ether.
I think obviously there's this crossover of these are dark ether reflections, and I think what he's talking about, On the last slide, 25, just a quick skip to that one. You see, like, it says, the stranger has discovered they can briefly return to our world, albeit only for several seconds before being yanked back. They say they were like a ghost and that no one could see them. And then also it says, day 1108, attempts to pass through weak spots yielding limited results, managed to lengthen glimpses of home into brief visits. Location is different every time. A jungle, a village, a glacier. I wander unseen, like a ghost, 10 or 15 seconds, then pulled back here. If only I could get someone to see me, or if I could only ask for help. So that's that same stranger guy.
There's something. That's the thing. Those monkeys, they also piss me off. I was like, there's got to be something with these monkeys. These monkeys are good. You know, you must be able to interact with them some way. You know.
Yeah, I think the jellyfish and the monkeys completely unexplained. I think there may be something in and also there's also one piece of intel missing that they've not released yet on D Machine. Like there's 13 out of 14, so there's still one missing. I don't know why they haven't released it, or if it's a bug or whatever.
Annoying.
But yeah, I think so. That's for me. There's like the jellyfish is completely unexplained, and why there's like an underwater vibe. And then also the monkeys, like, you know, why are they there? They're not explained. And it's just the things that we can just talk about and probably refer back to, you know, like on podcast 10, we'd be like, I remember when we said that on podcast 2.
Yeah, that's why I think these, honestly, the podcasts are good. Obviously, for like the reason of like we're just talking through everything that we normally talk about or want to talk about, but don't get the opportunity to normally. Plus the fact of, you know, talking to people in chat and stuff like that. Again, no one's asking questions in chat. What's going on? No one's asking any questions. I can see you. I can see the numbers. I know you're there. Just ask the question. I want to have a question section, but it's hard when you don't have a question. Just ask a question. It could be any question. Just ask a random question like, do you like eating pine nuts or something? I don't know. Fuck it. Whatever. Just ask a question. But no, like it's this thing of like, obviously we cataloging our thoughts and feelings towards, you know, Warzone or zombies or whatever we're talking about that week.
Yeah.
And so looking back at these things and going like, oh yeah, remember like we discussed that and we had our theories on that and they actually fucking came true, you know?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, like the one we said in the last episode, we spoke about the map being split into 2 parts, you know, via teleporter. I actually did think that it was going to be a different map, like a different location, but it does seem like it's all Vietnam still. But maybe not, because even, you know, like in that note there, it says locations different every time. Like this stranger, he can go to these different locations. So a jungle, you know, he's always speaking about Vietnam. A village, possibly the same, but then also a glacier. Like, is this, you know what I was saying? Like, is that summit? Is there like another part to this map that we don't know yet? Is he referring to 3 sections in this new map, or is it 3 entirely different parts?
I don't know, man. Like, I don't know. Like, because I think from the kind of the footage or the screenshots and snaps and photos and things that we discussed last week,
yeah,
like they're 2 different worlds. And correct me if I'm wrong, but like we actually have text and things that say like that, you know, you go through the portal and they're 2 different locations and they're not times, but they do say they're 2 different locations, right? So I think this trailer hasn't really told us everything, because there has been no teleportation. But one thing I do want to talk about from the trailer actually is like there's an obvious section where they actually, you know, they promote the fact of like they're killing zombies in the room next to that chamber that's filling up with souls, and then it kind of explodes with that like purple pinky shockwave.
Yeah,
thing.
we didn't really mention that. Yeah.
No, so that's one of the things. Is like, is that to charge the portal or something? Because they don't really show that either. You know?
I think top line theory on that is, yeah, those purple things are. I reckon you need zombie kills to charge them. And that does charge that thing in the middle, which is the unlimited power source. And then you do see like an almost onslaught-esque, you know, the purple thing is around the map, isn't it? Because they don't really show you the dark ether like we had in D Machine. It just seems like you're within this sort of giant orb.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't really know where they're gonna what it means, but we just kind of know, yeah, like you're right, like it's probably a sort of charging mechanism. And you know, I can't wait till we do Thursday have a crack at the Easter egg attempts. So that was going to be cool anyway, just going through that. And that's what all this sort of like build up and knowledge and going through the intel is just going to give us, you know, a heads up onto certain things.
Yeah, exactly. But like massive props to you though, because obviously going through all of this stuff beforehand, obviously it's like like the first day when we always do this. So everyone watching, like we always do, like Tel and I, when the maps drop, we always are like, okay, Easter egg cracking. This is the first thing we do. We don't care about high rounds, kills, whatever. Just obviously we're just figuring shit out and trying to crack on with as much of the Easter egg as possible. But say like by going through all of this on this podcast beforehand, it should obviously it helps us, but also helps anyone listening who's going to play it, because it's like, oh, okay, they talked about this thing, and then, oh, I've just noticed something that's kind of like it, or, you know, there's something that kind of might just like pique your attention in the map that we've talked about, and it connects to it, you know, and it should like massively help us to crack the Easter egg.
This is like the perfect segue to like this last slide, but don't go on it just yet. But just like when I was going back through all of these old Jason Blundell videos, he mentioned that the best thing about watching, you know, what these Easter eggs were essentially they would put in, you know, like they'd put in the thing would be referenced as A, and that might be like, I don't know, a basically the mechanic in order to start an Easter egg. Then they'll give you no information, so you don't know what B is, but then you will get C. So he was saying like the audience, the players, they are the connective tissue between A and C, and that's
so good.
Makes it work. And that's why it's so cool, because we think that these things are really random, but because they don't give us any clues or anything. And I just felt that was really, really, really cool. And then he talked about this. So if you go to slide 44, which this is just epic. Final thoughts.
44? Have you got 25? What are you on?
24. Go back a slide.
Oh, I thought you said 44.
So this was kind of like my final thoughts, and like just to say to the guys who's listening to this podcast, you know, with the Easter egg, if you're trying it, expect.
He didn't do the mantis. He done the mantis.
So this was basically this was quoted by Jason Blundell himself, and he said like someone asked him in the Zetsubo no Shima Easter egg, you have to, one of the steps, you have to have a gobble gum. You have to have a gobble gum in order to do it. And they were like, the community was in outrage and were like, why did you have to do that? Like, you know, no one's going to think about that. And he was like, I wanted to put in something that would take the player outside of, you know, everything they know. And he referenced the mantis, where you had to like, you know, the step was inspired by the Metal Gear Solid game back on PS1 when you fight Psycho Mantis. And there's the alternative way to beat him was like you plug your controller to avoid mind control. You plug your controller into the other port, which is just next level cool. And that was like, that's the sort of stuff they've been trying to do, and it just makes you think. That's the sort of stuff that gets me excited about zombies. You know, that's what I loved, like the whole idea that you have to think, that you really have to think to get these things done. D Machine was kind of, you know, quite easy and straightforward, but like the actual challenges and the ciphers and the Easter eggs, they're so cool. And yeah, it's just, I found that really, really cool that he referenced like that Metal Gear stuff, because that's really one of the coolest things in gaming.
Yeah, that's the thing. The thing about this, I could literally spend a whole podcast talking about this Psycho Mantis boss and just Metal Gear in general. But like nothing has ever really been done like that. So all of you youngsters, this is obviously quite an old game, right? But essentially, as Tel said, is like in order to beat the boss, you had to actually take your controller out of one port and put it in the other. That's how you had to do it, and it didn't tell you that. And obviously, it's like, you would never think to do that because it's not in your general normal mechanics. It's kind of like, well, everything I do is within the game, within the screen, not to do with the hardware, you know?
Yeah.
It's like,
that's just so good.
It's why it's so good, and it's never really been done. And that was done on a PS1. It was done on a PS1, you know? And it's fucking crazy. So just for him to be able to reference that and have knowledge of that mechanic, you know, and be like, we're trying to top that, you know, we're trying to top it.
That for me is like, that's why he was like one of the best, because just putting in things like that, just, and like you say, like obviously people are now doing this on emulator because I think actually if you fail it maybe like 10 times in a row, then you do get a call from the kernel and he does tell you like, I've got it on screen, you know, plug your controller into controller port 2. If you do that, he won't be able to read your mind. So I think they do eventually give it away in the end. But like, if you're inspired by like that sort of stuff, that's what I mean. That's like completely in the right place, because that's like no other game ever. And that's why I was saying what I loved about zombies. It was so different, so unique. It's like its universe is so unique. So to dumb all of that stuff down would just be like, you know, like a write-off. That's what makes it great. And there's lots of different elements to it. It's like, there's high rounds, which is also one thing. There's gameplay, which is one thing. There's Easter egg solving, which is one thing. There's intel, which is one thing. There's just so many different factors. And that's like, some people just do high rounds. Some people just do Easter eggs. Some people just do storyline.
Yeah.
And now there's speedrunners, which is like a new thing that's come out of it. So they're still they're starting to, I'd imagine, develop different teams to work for, or like, let's make it so it's speed runnable, or like certain things that take away RNG, whereas Black Ops 3 had a lot of RNG for speed runs, whereas D Machine has like nearly no RNG, apart from maybe, I think you need to get double points before on round 5 or something, which is still a bit annoying, but that's the only thing. But yeah, so stuff like that. So I think it's like, if they're doing stuff like the Psycho Mantis stuff, I'm completely down for that.
Yeah, oh man, yeah, me too. Well, Polish just said in the comments, he said this feels so organized. So I said, thank you so much, man. I'm glad it feels so organized. So yeah, well, basically we have the action points, like our talking topics, which are up here, and then that's from the previous podcast. Here it is. So just our talking topics, and then that's it. Off we go. We just chat, baby. That's all it's all about.
Chat, very casual, and just talking around different ideas, and everything's pretty chill.
Yeah, but thank you for everyone who's like supported the first episode. So obviously this is like, even from last episode, we didn't stream this one, but already seeing like, there's a good few of you guys in here. Just try and be a bit more vocal. That would be great, just to give us some comments and stuff. But amazing. Thank you so much for like all the support and likes and things you've been doing and watching this. Honestly, can't thank you enough. Obviously, like Tel and I could do this, we could chat, but it's not the same without you guys being here. Obviously, it makes the world of difference. So just wanted to say, yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Honestly, it's great. Yeah, that's my little input.
That's all you need. Just reciprocation, people. That's what it's all about. He says keeps changing my comments in the chat. Do you know why? No, I've no idea. It's not me. I'm not doing it. I'm learning like new skills about like talking and typing other things in the chat at the same time. It's quite a new skill. But what else was I going to say? I was going to say thanks for something else. But no, I was going to say, if you guys have got any tips or anything that you guys want us to change or talk about, or this is all very much like we're just doing this super casually. I'm trying to make this as polished as possible. So if there's anything aesthetically or in audio that you think, oh guys, could you do this a bit better? I don't like the way, like for instance, do you want me to have my face cam on? Do you want it off? I'm kind of turning it on and off to show you stuff that's on screen so I don't block it. But yeah, just let me know your general thoughts, even just not right now live, like after in the comments if you're watching this on YouTube now. Just some tips and general feedback would be absolutely amazing. And as I said before, I honestly mean it so much. We don't want to do this without you. We want you to be as much as a podcast as we are. And honestly, I feel like later on down the line, if you're getting involved with the podcast all the time, like we could get you on, like to do a segment, get you on like for a week or two or whatever, and just see how things go. So it's all very much open in the at the moment, but your support does honestly mean everything, and that's what we do it for. So I think that's it. That's a wrap for the episode 2 of the TTK podcast. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. Tel, have you got any final words?
My final words would be expect the unexpected.
Oh, strong.
We will. Yeah.
Strong final words. Love it. All right, guys. Yeah, thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, like the videos, and comment your fucking asses off. Much love. Peace.